Hey guys, Doc. So I'm going to run the skid steer today. Well, actually I ran it the other day. And I figured before they come pick it up, if you guys ever rent one of these, let me give you a couple tips. Number one, what model? This is a 550. It's a T550 Bobcat, which is a little bit larger. They have a smaller one. And you want to make sure that you get one typically with tracks on it, not with wheels. Next, you want to get them with a joystick. And why is that? The joystick controls are so much easier. They make a newer version without the joystick. I can't even run that thing. I have to have the joysticks. But one thing that's important about it, make sure there's not a bunch of spiders on here. I ran through a whole bunch of spiders yesterday. So when you get into the skid steer, you're going to pull this down. The skid steer will not run without that pull down. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to turn this button, turn this key here, turn it, and it's going to prime. You look up here and it's going to tell me prime. It's going to say wait. And then it'll show the hours, and once the hours show up, you have to push this override, lock override. That needs to turn green. At that point, that's when you can control. You've got your forward and back, left and right over here, and then this is your bucket, up and down, and then you got your tilt. The important thing about this type of version is, for me, when I'm doing a lot of leveling or graveling, I call it the float button. So there's a yellow button right here. See that yellow button? It's actually a hydraulic release. So when your bucket's up, you push that button down, tap forward, and all the hydraulics release on the bucket, and it free floats. So you'll see the skid steer going along, and that bucket will free float along the ground. And that's really important if you're going to be doing any kind of like leveling. So if you're going to rent one of these Bobcats, number one, tell them, make sure you got to have a joystick. They delivered one without it, and I made them take it back. Make sure you have a joystick and find out if it's got, and if it has a joystick, it should have that float button. It's real important. But let me just start it up for you so you can see, because you won't be able to hear me once it starts. And this is your throttle, by the way. So this is the speed. So I'm going to come up here, you're going to hear it beep, and it's going to say priming, and it's going to say wait. And then as soon as that wait goes off, you'll see, I believe it's the hours show up, 839 hours. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it. Push the green button. Ready to run. Back, forward. Lift the bucket up. Tilt it up. Tilt it down. And now watch the float button. Ready? So I'm going to bring the bucket up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this button. Do it one more time. Push the button. So one thing I want to do is with the skid steer today is I kind of want to, I've made some compost piles over here with dirt booster and some of those wood chips and some horse manure. And then I've got a pile over there that has a lot of vegetables and wood chips inside of it. And I'm kind of thinking I might combine the two and just leave them all winter, but I want to mix them up. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll probably go mix these things up. I actually changed my mind. This pile over here is really dry. Apparently all those wood chips are just, we haven't had rain so long. That pile is actually really active because it's been there and it has moisture in it. So I'm actually going to take that pile and put it over there. That pile looks really good. There's a lot of moisture in it. This, I've never watered this, so I'm going to change up. You can see the difference here. See how much moisture there is in this over here, and this is really dry. So, oh man, I really would like to put some water on it, but the problem is I've only got the skid steer for one day. Basically, we're gonna let this sit here all winter. We'll come out here, we'll put more produce or whatever trash we have into it, and then we can actually put a little bit of this into our soil when we put our dirt booster down. We'll put a little bit of this on top of a row, we'll put dirt booster, and then we'll till it, and we're all done for the season. We don't need to do anything else, but it'll help break up. We've got such hard soil here. I mean, it's like you can take a hammer to it. I mean, I'm riding over these fields right now and I'm not leaving any tracks whatsoever. It's so dry and hard. But once I get those wood chips into the soil for next year on these rows, man, it'll stay nice and loose and not compact up. So I'm real happy with that. And the bottom of the pile actually had quite a bit of steam coming off of it, so it's active. See that bottom? You got steam coming off of it there. All right, so I actually had a thought. I've got this strip in between the road and this. It's just kind of nasty. So I'm gonna start to bring some of those wood chips down, that mulch. And I'm gonna do a line of mulch in here. I'll let the guys rake it out. I'll just start dumping it. But I gotta move this gravel pile. I gotta take skid steer, I gotta move that gravel pile, and I gotta level out this pad down here, and then I got a couple of spots I want to fill in. When they bring this cabin and they drop it, he brings it with a mule, and so he'll be backing it in here with a mule, and he's got to have a way to get off this high end, so I'm going to make a little pad right here on the front, so when he comes in he can actually get off of here and drop the cabin. Can you tell we're in a drought? Good Lord.
Like I did.
It looks like he did it. Let's see what I said. So now you can see that it's pretty darn level, and it doesn't have to be level because we're going to put blocks under it, but still. Now I got an exit ramp. They can bring it in here, drop it, and then he can come off here. So that's kind of the whole purpose of this without destroying all this stuff. So it's actually a couple days after I did all this work, and I know the question about price is going to come up. Someone's going to say, why don't you just buy a tractor? Why don't you just buy a used one? I only get a skid steer a couple times a year. Cost, let's talk about the cost. A day, including drop off and pickup and fuel and all of that, is going to run you anywhere from usually about $700 to $900 a day. You can rent it for a week, and I think a week rental is somewhere around the $2,000 mark. Now, I was talking to John, and even he said, if we had to do all this ourselves, it would take two guys at least 40 to 60 hours to do all this moving, all this digging and all this moving. So labor-wise, it's actually really economical if you've got projects like this to actually do it to get a skid steer. One warning, They never have backup mirrors, and it's extremely dangerous to have people around you when you're running these things. And one of the first things I do, if someone's on site with me, I tell them, I say, you need to stay at least 30 yards away from me. At least. I cannot see you. You can look out the back window, but I'm telling you, you got to be really careful when you're backing up. I've shot all this footage, so I figured I'd put it on, and that's it. I got a ton of videos. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go work, do another video. I got to go put out winter rye on these fields. I told you guys someone was asking about the boots. I've been testing different boots for over a year now, and I'm going to show you my top picks for a really, really good boot. I've got the Apple Watch video. I was a former Apple Watch hater, denier. Now I'm an absolute lover of this thing. I'm going to do a video on that because there's a bunch of new changes. Anyways, hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Doc.